What's good, YouTube? You know who it is. Chef D, back at it again for Chef State of Mind. And today we're just gonna be making something real simple. It's gonna take a little bit of time out of your day. We're making some bread. Just not any bread. We're making sweet potato brioche buns, all right? Or brioche loaves, whatever you want to make, all right? So, I'm gonna get all set up. We'll be right back. Any kind of bread, especially bread or any kind of pastry, you want to make sure that you weigh everything out just so it stays consistent, all right? So we got our milk going in, and you can find this recipe at heritagesupperclub.com. Okay, gonna add some sugar because that's what our yeast is gonna want to eat so that it can help leaven our bread, all right? I'm using raw sugar. You could use granulated coconut sugar, whatever kind of sugar suits your fancy, all right? There we go, right on the dot. And that is it for this. So we're just gonna bring this up to about body temperature, all right? And then we're gonna measure the rest of our ingredients, all right? We have bread flour here. We're gonna do 400 grams. I like to measure in grams also. It's a lot more accurate than ounces or pounds or anything like that, all right? Then we're gonna have our butter. And butter is the most important thing when it comes to making brioche. Butter and eggs are the most important thing, all right? We're gonna measure our butter. You wanna just cut these into small chunks also, because you don't want them to be, you want them to emulsify into the dough relatively easily, okay? So I just cut them into small chunks just like this. It doesn't have to be uniform, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want it to be in smaller pieces. This butter has been sitting out at room temperature for about 30 minutes to an hour just to give it some time to soften up a little bit, all right? And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, if I go a little bit over on butter, I don't worry about it because that's where you're gonna get a lot of the fat and a lot of flavor from it, all right? I'm gonna crack our eggs. And usually this recipe takes 3 eggs, 137 grams to be exact. And an egg weighs about 50 grams each, give or take. So what I just do is, ooh, if that white would let go, I just crack it into a bowl like this and scramble them up really, really nicely, like you're making scrambled eggs. I have a video on how to make eggs also. I may remake it. How about you guys go and watch it? And if it's as terrible as I think, I'll make another one because I know I can improve on it a lot, all right? Just give that a mix. And then we're gonna get a new bowl. Then we're gonna measure out exactly how much we need. And this is kind of the same deal with the butter. If I go a little bit over, I'm not worried about it because again, these eggs are gonna add not only color, but flavor and richness to our dough, all right? So this is 138 grams that we're doing. Again, this recipe will be on heritagesupperclub.com. And that is right there, all right? Look how much egg we had left, all right? But we're gonna use this for something else. I'll show you guys later, all right? And then, I'm gonna have to measure out some salt, all right? I just usually add this in with the butter because it's fine for the butter and the salt to go in at the same time. I'm gonna do 8 grams. If you want to make this a touch saltier, you can. I just like to use mine for sandwich bread, bread for jelly and toast, things like that. So that is almost all of our ingredients. We're gonna go check on our milk. We'll be right back. All right, guys, so we have a milk here, but first things first, I wanna measure out our sweet potatoes, all right? So these are, if you go to like any kind of like Super H Mart or Farmer's Market, you will find these white sweet potatoes. And they're called Vietnamese sweet potatoes. I like these a lot better because they're a little bit, they're sweeter in a different kind of way than an orange sweet potato would be. If orange sweet potatoes is all you can find, feel free to use them. Or you can just use a regular potato. These have just been roasted. You can boil them or whatever. You just want them cooked, all right? So we're gonna add 100 grams, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's gonna add a lot of flavor. Because remember, we only have 400 grams of flour, so that's 1/4 total weight is gonna be potato, all right? And these are cold. They can be hot, it doesn't really matter. I just cooked mine ahead of time. And that's 100 grams right there. Gonna move that off of our scale. Then we're gonna mash these, all right? You don't need to see me do that, you know how to mash a potato. But the most important thing is our yeast going into our milk. You wanna put your finger in it, make sure that its body temperature should not feel hot to you. If it's hot to you, it's too hot for our yeast, all right? So we're gonna add in 8 grams. And there we go. And we're just gonna give that a little mix, all right? We're just gonna let this sit, and then you'll see over time, it's gonna form a froth over the top. That's how you know, number one, that your yeast is still alive, and number two, that you're ready to move on to mixing the dough, all right? So we're gonna let this sit for about 3 minutes, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, so we got our sweet potatoes mashed. I just used a whisk on the KitchenAid and just whipped them up. So here's our yeast, and here's what I was talking about, all right? You can see how there's that layer of yeast right at the top. That's how you know you're ready, all right? So whenever making any kind of bread or anything like that, something that I've learned is to put your liquid down first. So that's gonna stop all the flour from caking at the bottom, all right? We're gonna just throw our flour right on top of that. Notice I haven't put in the eggs or the butter yet, all right? Those are still right. Some of it's on the counter, but most of it is still right here. Okay, so we're gonna put our dough hook on. We're just gonna start mixing this, all right? This process is gonna take maybe about 3 to 4 minutes, all right? Okay, so now that our dough has come together, let me turn this off. So now that our dough has come together, we're gonna start adding our eggs in, all right? So I've reserved a little bit of egg, and I'm just gonna pour the rest of that in there for what we lost on the counter, all right? So turn this on. You're gonna add this very slowly, all right? You wanna add about 1 egg at a time. I know it's scrambled up and it's hard to tell, but add about that much. All right, guys, and that part's gonna take a while. So as you see, it starts to absorb that egg. You're gonna add more and more and more until you don't have any egg left, all right? And then I'm gonna show you what to do next. All right, guys, as you can see, our dough looks a little bit torn. You want this to start to look a lot smoother, all right? And once it starts looking smoother, that's how you know you're ready to move to the next step, all right? So, now let this go for about 5 to 6, maybe even 10 more minutes. We'll be right back. Okay, so now that our dough is a smooth ball, we can start adding in our butter super slowly, all right? That dough is just gonna eat up all that butter and emulsify in, okay? You can add it 1 or 2 pieces at a time. All right, all our butter is in, and we let this go for about another 2 minutes. And you don't have to worry about over mixing it after you add butter because butter is going to help it to stop from developing gluten, all right? Going to move our mixer out the way. That's what you're going to be left with, all right? So we're going to put just a little bit of flour on our hands just so the dough doesn't stick. And get all that dough off of the dough hook. Gonna flour our work surface. You don't have to add too much. It's just enough to where it doesn't stick, all right? I'm gonna scrape this beautiful dough, and it's super, super soft also. That's another sign that you wanna look for. I'm gonna flour the top just a touch. I'm gonna just knead this a little bit by hand also, all right? And as you can see, this ball is super smooth, right? See, look at that. So we really don't need to knead it that much. Trust me, you do not want to make this whole dough by hand because it is not easy, all right? It starts off super, as you saw, super soft and sticky. But as you can see now, it's beautiful, all right? So we're just gonna fashion this into a ball. Maybe add a little bit more flour. Okay, and when you're kneading something like this and turning it into a ball, you wanna make sure that you're cupping it just like this, all right? That's gonna help seal the bottom of it so that it rises properly, all right? If it helps, just keep a little bit of flour on your hands. This ball doesn't have to be super tight. You're not making something like pizza dough, anything like that. Now we have our same bowl that we had our flour in. Gonna add a little bit of oil. Drop that right in. Gonna lay a towel over it, a damp towel, then let it rise for about 2 hours. I'll see you guys in 2 hours, all right? All right, guys, so this is what our dough looks like after it's rested and improved for about 2 hours. So what we're gonna do is flour our work surface again. I'm just gonna get that out of the bowl. And you don't want to, you wanna try and disturb it as little as possible because you wanna keep some of that air trapped in there. Now we're just gonna divide that by half. I usually don't weigh this just because I just eyeball it. We have our 2 loaf pans here. Now if you want to make buns, you can make buns. But I'm just gonna make 2 loaves. Just because again, I like to use it for breakfast bread and sandwich bread and things like that because people going Corona crazy right now. So we're just gonna stretch this out a little bit. And then what we're gonna do is, so when you stretch it out, you're elongating that gluten. It's gonna help our bread have a nice crumb to it, all right? So we're gonna fold that into a third, fold that into a third. Then we're gonna shake it out this way. Okay? And then we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna roll it that time, all right? Then, I'm gonna fold it over itself just like that. And we're gonna shake it out this way. And when you're doing this, you're pulling gently and flapping it also. That's gonna help elongate the gluten also. That's gonna stop it from ripping also. Just gonna sit that in a loaf pan just like that, and it's gonna proof out the rest of the way, all right? I'm gonna do the same thing with this one. All right, guys, now this bread has been resting for about an hour, and it's mostly filled out these loaf buns. These loaf pans. As we put it in our oven, which has been set to 325, it's gonna expand a lot more. There's no need to score this or anything. We're just gonna throw this in the oven for 15 minutes, turn them, another 15 minutes, and they'll be all done. So we're gonna go do that. We'll be right back. All right, guys, so I took the bread out. It was exactly 15 minutes and then another 15 minutes, so 30 minutes in total. It's been resting for about 5 minutes. You can just pop those right out. Usually I just sit it upside down, sit the pan upside down, and let it sit here to cool down the rest of the way. Let me give you guys a close-up. And that's what it looks like, all right? We forgot to put the egg wash on it, but as you can tell, it still looks beautiful. It's not that big of a deal, just that it's glossy as it would have been. But as always, click these videos over here, subscribe somewhere down here. I'm Chef D for Chef State of Mind.
Anywhere you go.